Thanks for joining me tonight. We're going to review our, season 1, episode 2 of Let the Right One In. And guys, if I have issues tonight, I'm so sorry going live. There's issues, so please forgive me for that, all right? Let's get through this, though. So we open up our scene this week with Claire and her ailing dad, her dad that's dying. He is the guy that owns the pharmaceutical company. And he and Claire's relationship is absolutely at odds. She can't stand him because he came out with this pill that was supposed to help people. And instead, what the pill ended up doing was people found out that if they break this medication down and inject it, they can get high. And it was killing people. And he knew this. And even though he knew this, he allowed this medication to stay out on the market, therefore killing hundreds of thousands of people, right? And he has no remorse. And Claire dislikes him for that. So that's their relationship. Anyways, remember, Claire's dad wanted her to come back home. Claire's a scientist and wanted her to come back home because her brother Peter, who he told her had been dead for years, actually had been bitten by a vampire, has this disease. He's a vampire. And he's letting Claire know that Peter has been alive this whole time. And the pill that the dad was doing experiments to try to figure out how he can help his son Peter. So he ended up coming up with this pill. And it actually seemed like it was going to help Peter, because remember, in the first episode, he was able to see the sunlight. We know that the pill went bad or didn't help because once the sunlight hit Peter, his skin started to flame up and he caught fire. So Peter's still alive. Dad brings Claire back home and wants Claire to take over his studies to help her brother, his son, Peter. And Claire didn't want to give up everything that she had going on, but she decided that she's going to go ahead and help her dad to find a cure for Peter, and letting her dad know, they had this huge blowout where she's like, I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for my brother. Okay. So Claire doesn't know everything about Peter's being bitten by a vampire, doesn't know the effects that it has on Peter. So we find out in the beginning scene that they're in the mansion that the dad has. He has a room there where he does his studies. And behind this door, he has these chimpanzees that he infected with the same disease that Peter has, to see how they would react and respond so that he can figure out how to, help his son. So Claire's, it's her first time seeing these chimpanzees behind this, it's like this glass cage that they're in. And them being a vampire, being injected with what Peter has, the effects on them is it's horrific. So you have one chimpanzee who sees Claire and he's kind of scratching on the wall. You remember, you saw Ellie in the last episode where when they're getting hungry, when their disease or the infection starts to take over, they start clawing and you can hear their stomach growl. Well, this chimpanzee was looking at Claire behind the glass and he's just very evil, angry, the eyes, and he's trying to get at her, and he has leg restraints on, and he literally tries to get at her and pulls the leg out of his socket. Okay. Claire is just scared and awe, can't believe that this is what's going on. This chimpanzee's leg just pulls apart from the chain, and there's blood everywhere. And you see the chimpanzee turns around and ends up, licking his own blood. So that's the effects that we're seeing the infection take on, the chimpanzees. Sorry, guys. And we saw that with Ellie. Okay. So Claire, now that she's in charge, she's going to take over where her dad left off. these are the things that she needs to know, okay, in order to help Peter. And she was not expecting this. Anyways, also in this episode, we find out a little bit more about Ellie, the daughter, Mark's daughter, who has been infected with this, disease. She's a vampire. And, remember, their whole return to town is to give Ellie some stability, but Mark is still trying to find a cure for his daughter. Another note, guys, that I want to bring up is in the last episode, towards the end, on Peter's nightstand next to him is a school picture. In that school picture, Ellie is in that school picture. So we now made a connection between Peter, who's been bitten, who's been infected, Ellie, who's been infected. And so they happen to be in that same class. So we saw that last episode. Okay. So we can now connect those two together. How they got bit, we don't know yet. Okay. But we do know that she was in the same class as Peter when he was, for lack of better words, a normal kid. Okay. Anyways, we also get to, delve in further into Isaiah, who is Naomi, the detective, who's on the case of, remember, there's bodies that have come up that they found that was mutilated. Okay, so Isaiah's mom, who's a detective, is also working that case and who happens to live next door to Mark and Ellie. Okay, anyways, Isaiah's having a hard time at school. He's being bullied really bad. He's very eccentric for his age. He has to be about 11, 12 years old. Very eccentric. He wants to be Houdini. He wants to be a magician. Okay, and so that brings him trouble. He's already different as it is, has his own little style. But then with that, he's a target at school. And so he's absolutely being harassed by these kids at school because of what he likes and who he is. Okay. And you guys know how that is in school. Anyways, remember, he also befriends Ellie in the last episode. Okay. So he really wants his dad to come to the show that he has at the talent show at school. And remember his dad, Frank, now, last episode, remember, Mark ends up slitting Frank's throat. He has no clue that Frank is Isaiah's dad. And Isaiah's dad and mom, if you remember, they're divorced. Okay. Isaiah's dad had a drinking problem and he's doing some side work on the side late at night. Mark ends up, remember, killing Frank. He has Frank's phone because he's trying to figure out. Remember, he's trying to find a cure for Ellie. And remember, the guy that he killed last week in the tunnel had a drug on him and also had that number in his phone, which led back to Frank, Isaiah's dad. Okay. And Isaiah's dad really wants to make things right with Isaiah because of the fallout with he and Naomi, his ex-wife. So he told, Isaiah that he would be, coming to the talent show. Unfortunately, we know that's not going to happen because he's dead. Okay. Also in this episode, I really like the fact that we get to know a little bit about Zeke and Mark's relationship, because remember, they were like brothers. They were very close. And we found out last episode that Zeke knows about Ellie and the situation with Mark and Ellie. Because they came back to town. We also find out in this episode that Zeke ended up helping Mark, get rid of a body, years before. I have an idea who I think the body was, but we won't talk about it now because they didn't explain it in episode 2. Okay. Anyways, but so that's how close they are. Zeke knows everything that's going on. He doesn't want to be a part of helping Mark find bodies for Ellie. He doesn't want to do that, but he loves his goddaughter. She was able to see him and adores Mark, but he wants no part of it because he knows, being that, what Mark has to do to keep Ellie alive. Okay. So Zeke does know that. And remember, Mark is now working back at the restaurant where he actually opened for Zeke years before and he ended up leaving. Okay, so he's now back in town. Anyways, throughout this episode, I really appreciate the fact that with the movie and also the book, everything is cold. You can feel it. It's the winter time. You know what I mean? I like the ambiance of the whole show. Okay, of the series. They're doing a good job as far as relating to the movie. Okay, if you also remember, guys, Ellie last episode. Remember when she was out in the courtyard with Isaiah? And remember, she was really hungry. Her stomach is growling. She came this close to biting his neck off, okay? Ripping his neck apart. And remember, he was doing that coin trick. And for some reason, she really started to pay attention to that. And you see her fangs go back, in her, gums, whatever, in her mouth. And she's not going to attack Isaiah, but whatever he was doing with that coin trick, remember, she was going to do that, all right? And she ends up helping Isaiah with this whole talent show thing that he's doing, okay? But anyways, as far as Ellie's concerned, there is a scene where she's in her bathroom, which is her bedroom, and she's in the mirror and she's reflecting. And so we get a look into her mom, who her mom was. The fact that Ellie was bitten while her mom was alive. We don't know what happened to the mom, but she is dead, okay? We got to see the relationship that the family had, Mark, his wife, and Ellie had before all this happened and even while this happened. And I believe that mom and dad, Mark, were both hoping and looking for a cure for Ellie at that time. So we get to see her reflect back on a scene where she was with her mom, before things got bad. But remember, she was already bitten while her mom was alive, okay? So we got a little bit of that. Also, we also got to see with Mark's reflections, as he's reflecting back on things, what happened that night before, we got to see what he does with the body once he has killed them for the sake of his daughter, to make sure she can continue living and not turn into a monster, because if she doesn't feed, it gets worse for her, okay? So we got to see what he did with Frank's body, which was really graphic. It kind of reminded me of the Ozarks, in the beginning of the scene in the Ozarks where they're in those big blue barrels where they put the bodies at. Anyways, that's what Mark did to Frank's body. He literally broke him down, like he was a deer, like he was hunting, He drained his body, brought some blood back for Ellie that night, the night before. But we got to see how he breaks the body down and gets rid of the body. And when you watch that scene, obviously, you're watching that and how good he is at it, This is not the first time, obviously, that he's done this. He's done this a lot, okay? And that scene pretty much wraps that up, okay? So this is what he does. He's done this a lot. And he also prays over the body after he kills the body, because this is a really good man. He's a good man. He had a good family. Ellie's a beautiful young lady, great daughter, and they had a wonderful family. And, it's kind of like, what would you do to save your family member, if they were infected, been bitten by a vampire, So he's a good man, and he hates to have to do this. So you notice that he always prays over the body once he's killed that person, because that is a sacrifice basically for his daughter, to keep her alive, and hoping that they'll find a cure. So we also got to see that. Also, guys, if you remember, at Claire at the house where Claire is at, her dad's mansion. The caretaker there, his name is Matthew. You also get to see Matthew because there's a point where the information that Mark got from Frank before he died, he ended up getting another unknown number telling him to meet him somewhere, which was supposed to go to Frank, okay? And so Mark ends up getting this address and, begs Zeke, can I please borrow your car? Zeke is absolutely against it. And, knowing their relationship, he ends up going ahead and telling Frank, telling Mark, don't leave a scratch on my car, but, here. So, Mark goes out that night. He follows this it's like a black Escalade. He follows it to this industrial area. And we see Matthew, Claire's dad's caretaker, at Mark's window, and kind of knocks on the window like, do you need anything? Are you lost? And the vibe that Mark got, and you will get, is Mark needs to get the hell out of there. He stumbled onto something that he doesn't know, but it's not good. So Mark's like, you know what? My bad. I took the wrong turn. You'll never see me again. And he leaves. So what's up with Matthew? Why is he there? And as the episode goes on along, we'll talk about that later. Let's pin that, okay? The part where we're at the talent show, and remember, Ellie wants to go to the talent show. Dad says no. She ends up going anywhere. So, Isaiah's mom comes in, and she sees Ellie sitting down in the auditorium. She goes and sits by Ellie, and she's literally trying to get out some information, to find out, who is this young lady that's living next to her, who her son, really likes as a really good friend. They don't know anything about them. So Ellie, her dad's always told her, don't give people your name. Don't say anything to anyone. So she's very smart, though, because as Naomi is sitting there asking her questions, Ellie will reply with, I love your earrings, and Naomi's like, I love your jacket, trying to get information. And she sees that, Ellie's got a bandage on her hand that, she hurt herself really bad because when she was reflecting about her mom in a mirror, she ended up getting upset, and she broke the mirror, cut herself. Anyways, Naomi, being a detective and a mother herself, and suspicious, of course, what happened to your hand? And Ellie just, I broke my glass, my mirror, and, goes into this whole explanation, which made sense. Okay. So she's not stupid. She's a very smart little girl. Okay. Anyways, Isaiah's on stage. The bullies are on the front row. He's coming out to do this magic trick for the talent show that he's been really excited about. We heard all about it in the first episode, and we get to see him do this trick. The kids in the front row, the bullies, are just being asses to him. Okay, so he kind of freezes up and just kind of stands there because he's scared. I mean, they threatened that if he didn't do a trick that they wanted him to do, they're going to beat him up. So he's scared. And this is a kid that just wants to be friends with any and everyone. This is a good kid. Okay. He's not about that life. All right. Anyways, so he's on the stage and he's just frozen. Okay. And all of a sudden, Ellie yells from the audience, do you need some help on stage? To something to that effect. All right. She goes on stage. She whispers in his ear, tell them you're going to make me disappear. And Isaiah's like, I can't do that. She's like, just tell them that. So Isaiah's like, my final trick tonight, I'm going to make my volunteer disappear. He moves the curtains back. The curtains, he lets the curtain go, and she's gone. So everyone's like, what the hell? All of a sudden, she's like, I'm here. She's in the front of the auditorium, just standing there. How he did that, craziness. Anyways, it goes off great. The kids love it. They're clapping for him. It backfired on the bullies. Awesome. But still, mom is looking like, how the hell did she just get from there to here like that? Okay. That's one of their, one of the traits that they have, being bitten, is that their movement is quite swift, very fast. They can climb, they can, all of this stuff, vampires. All right. So that went over great, but it still left mom kind of suspicious. Anyways, they go home. Ellie wants to go and hang out with Isaiah. And I love when they're at someone's door and they stand there. So they're at the apartment. Isaiah goes in. He's happy. Mom's going in. Ellie just kind of stops and looks and just stands there, because remember, they have to be invited in. They can't just come in. So she comes up with this great excuse. My father always tells me I should wait to be invited in before I come in. So hence, let the right one in. So they gave her permission to come in. And I love that. Okay, I really love that. Anyways, while they're there, they're playing. Mark shows up because remember, he got scared off from, being in the industrial area where he's not supposed to be, being seen by Matthew. Anyways, he shows up and he's going to collect Ellie, and he sees that she's having a great time in her room, because remember, guys, this girl's been on the run. She hasn't been able to have friends or anything, She's had to live a very a sad life, because she's been bit and she can't let anyone know. So he sees her having a good time. He wants to leave. Mom realizes and talks him into staying and having tea. So as she's making tea, he's kind of walking around, looking at pictures. Her home is beautiful. Then he comes across a picture, and it's a picture of Isaiah's dad. And he realizes that's the guy that I slit his throat. That's Frank. The look on his face, dude, at that time is just, what the fuck, right? So, Naomi comes in there and she's like, can I get you some honey? He says nothing because he's just tripping off the fact that, please don't tell me this is this kid's dad. So she's like, gets his attention, and he's like, oh, sorry, Isaiah's dad? And, Naomi's like, yeah. And then he also finds out that Naomi is a NYPD detective. Mind blown, okay? He happens to come back to town with his daughter. He moves into this apartment, and guess who lives next door? He moves next door to the freaking detective that's also investigating a body that's been, mutilated. And we'll go to that scene where she's looking at that body that washed up last week, guys, or on the first episode. And the coroner is like, there's like hand gouges in his throat, to where she could put her hand in the cadaver's throat. So, someone ripped, you get where we're getting at. Like, okay, so I don't know if there's other vampires out there or what, but this is not normal. So the coroner, sorry guys, the coroner points that out to her. Okay, that's who they moved next door to. All right, so that was just I just love the look on his face when he realizes, and when we realize, oh my gosh, we knew it, but for him, he didn't know it. So it was priceless, his face realizing, what type of shit did I get myself into here? Anyways, towards the end of this episode, we find out that I think the dad, Claire's dad, I believe he passes away. Anyways, this scene is pretty brutal because Claire asked her dad, or asked Matthew, the caretaker, how are you guys feeding him? What are you guys doing? And you find out that dad has donated his own blood. Matthew has also donated his own blood, but after a while, they can't keep doing that. So Claire finds out that they're actually going out and just kidnapping folks. I mean, I think that's what Matthew was doing that night when Mark was, following him, was looking for a body for Peter, Claire's brother. And so we get to see that disturbing scene where they're down in the workroom of the mansion where he keeps his chimpanzees, all that stuff, right? And you see Peter lying on the floor and he's chained up, and he's not himself because now he's ready for feeding, okay? And Claire's never seen her brother like that. Although badly burned and the pain he's in, she hasn't seen him in action as a vampire, and she's getting ready to experience that. So she's crying. She's wondering what's going on? Why is he chained up? What's going on? And Matthew's like, Claire, like, he has to feed. He has to feed. And so Peter gets up and he kind of lunges at his sister. Thank God he's chained up by his foot. He lunges at her and she kind of backs off. She's scared because this is her little brother. They're very close. You got to see in this episode that they had a very good relationship. And it was Peter that told his father to tell Claire that he was dead. He didn't want his sister to know or see him like that, because he knows that his sister she's a scientist, very well known and is doing quite well, and didn't want her to be involved. So that wasn't that decision, that was Peter's decision anyways. So this is really sad. Matthew has this little beeper on him or something, and he turns it on. The leg restraint, a door opens. There's this guy that has his hands behind his back. There's this metal thing that's just connected here, and you see that blood's dripping, and that's Matthew's meal. Or I'm sorry, not Matthew, I'm sorry, that's Peter's meal. And Matthew hits the button on the remote. It unlocks Peter's chain, and Peter looks, and all of a sudden Claire's like, no, Peter. And Peter just attacks and feeds. And those eyes, remember, those eyes glow like a nickel, the color of a nickel, actually, really silver and bright. And she got to see what this infection has done to her brother. And I think seeing that more than ever is going to want her to do everything in her power to find a cure for him. And once we get a cure, obviously that's what Mark is looking for with Ellie. So this was an awesome episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you all are watching with me. If you haven't seen the movie, go check out the movie, so you can, get some perspective of the series, and you can see how well done it was, how much of a good job that they did on this series so far. We're in episode 2. I'm liking it so far. I can't wait for episode 3. Guys, you can watch this on Showtime, on Hulu, Friday nights at, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, all right? If you have any comments, please comment. You can reach me at rossietalks@gmail.com. You can also reach Movie Lovers Unite at movieloversunite@gmail.com. If you want to support the show, if you want to buy merchandise, everything is in the description. Also, check out Charlie Widman. Please check out A-Town Alex Haynes. And please check out John DeGregorio on Movie Lovers Unite. So next week, guys, I'm going to come back, but I will be sitting with John. We are going to review The Orphan 2. I really love the first one. I love movies like that. And I really am looking forward to seeing The Orphan 2. I haven't seen it yet. I'm waiting to see it so I can review it with John. That's going to be on our original channel, Movie Lovers Unite, on YouTube, and you can also listen to it on our podcast. I appreciate you guys being patient with me with the difficulties that come up in a live, and I appreciate you guys just joining me for another episode of Rossie Talks, movies, TV, and everything in between. I will catch you guys next week. Thank you, guys.